It's the end of a busy day. You just saw 30 patients. Instead of heading home for dinner with your spouse or playing with the kids, you now begin your night job charting. Charting is critical and necessary, but it steals your focus from your patients, eats away at your time with your family, and keeps you up at night. The burden of always having another chart to complete drains every clinician. Freed is an AI medical scribe that makes charting go away. Freed listens, prepares your notes, and writes patient instructions for you. Charting is done before your patient walks out of the room. Wait, because it gets better. Freed learns your style over time, just like a human scribe would, except that it will never quit on you. Freed is loved by 10,000 plus clinicians from every specialty. It is HIPAA compliant, takes 30 seconds to learn, and costs only $99 a month. You can try Freed for free right now by going to freed.ai. My listeners can use the coupon code PGD for $50 off the first month.
We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the podcast. And I've got a special guest to you coming from Australia, Matt Rod. He's an entrepreneur. He's a visionary investor, educator, mentor, and he's got a different approach to wealth and experience. And he has an excellent podcast about investments, alternative investments, and website investments, which is really interesting. I'm really happy to have him on the show and to talk about his experience and add value to the community. So Matt, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on, Chris. Definitely a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I really enjoy I love your, a very unique, one of a kind guest. So, briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive right into the questions.
Yeah, well, like a lot of your listeners, my wife and I have always been fascinated by semi-passive income. And I think where it came from many years ago, we started out buying and selling traditional businesses. And of course, we read the classic book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that really twigged us into this idea of let's do this in a leveraged way. Let's get semi-passive about this. We didn't want to work 9 till 5. Or these days we notice, Chris, it's 5 to 9. I'm sure a lot of your professional listeners will appreciate that. So we just went on this journey of finding the perfect business where you don't have to work in them 9 till 5 and it's not leveraged to the time, because we wanted that time freedom. And over the years, what we did was we were very successful at it. And we took that strategy to the online world. So these days we buy and sell online businesses. So we buy and sell websites.
Yeah, very interesting. And I'm really excited to talk to you about that. When you, just so the audience is clear, when you say semi-passive, what is your definition of that, or give an example of semi-passive?
Okay, so really good question. In the good old days, websites used to be a lot more passive than what they are now, but so they do need work. So we say they're semi-passive in that you can work on them in the evenings, while like as a side hustle, whilst you still have a full-time job, which is perfect for our clients because you don't have to turn up every day to renovate a website. So they're kind of like online real estate. So it's literally, we liken it, it's an alternative to buying houses. So we have a lot of high income earners that we train. And what happens is, maybe some of your listeners are in this boat, they max out with the banks with their borrowing capacity. So they look for alternatives. And that's why they come to us to learn off us. And also they want to keep their day jobs because they're paid lots and lots of money. Probably like a lot of your audience, Chris. So semi-passive for us means they can still work at their daytime jobs, but in the evenings work on these websites, or maybe work on them once a week or once a month. So they definitely need work. So they're kind of halfway between real estate and like shares, which are which are kind of passive. So there's, you don't have to work on them every day, but there is a little bit of work that you should be doing on them, especially when you're renovating them. When you're getting that first renovation going, you want to be working on them, once a week or something like that. But once they're up, you have a team that keeps them going on maintenance.
Interesting. And that's very helpful because I know a lot of the individuals listening to this podcast, they are real estate investors, and a lot of times they say like real estate is passive, but it's not passive income. It's like you have to. So moving over to websites, what kind of websites are best suited for your particular strategy? Is it like a blog or elucidate?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because a lot of people, when they hear us talk about buying websites and renovating websites, they instantly think e-commerce, so like Amazon sites or sites that sell physical products. We do none of that. When we got online, because we're entrepreneurs, our background is buying and selling manufacturing businesses. So when we got online, my wife said to me, let's not do anything that involves physical inventory, because it's a real drain of your funds to have physical inventory tied up in a warehouse somewhere and trying to sell it online. There's a lot of complex parts to that model. Now, it's very effective, but it's not a good one for beginners. We teach beginners, and it's also we ourselves. We want to keep life simple, not hard. So we buy what you just said is typically blogs, rundown blogs. So neglected, we call them diamonds in the rough, Chris. So we're looking for websites that have been neglected, people have left, and the way we make money off them is literally just through putting ads on them or affiliate offers. And can I give a really good example? So we've got lots of examples, but just a cute one is we've got a young couple on our course. They live on the laptop, they do the laptop lifestyle thing, and they do what we've taught. And they found here in Australia a gardening site that the gentleman had for 14 years, and he just left it. And so they sent him an email and said, hey, we noticed you're not doing anything with your website, because it hadn't been posted on. It's just about gardening. It's just a passion site. And but they already owned a gardening site, and they're not experts in gardening. They live, all around the world. They just hire a team to write the articles. So it's pretty easy to run. They bought that site for $400 and they renovated it. Now, talking about semi-passive, what they did, they just do the keyword research and they direct 2 writers to write all the articles. That's it. So they're doing this while they're traveling around the world. And that site now generates them $4,000 a month passive income, just from ads and affiliate offers on there. So affiliate offers, if you're listening to this, is when, it's a gardening site. If they recommend, say, a wheelbarrow or a chainsaw or something like that, and someone clicks on the link to go and look at it, they get sent over to Amazon, and Nathan and Alexa get an affiliate commission for that because they're tracked. So it's a very, once it's set up, it's a very automated way of earning income. And so from $400 to $4,000 a month. So that's now worth 6 figures, that website. So nice alternative for a young couple to real estate. Not a lot of risk. Takes effort and knowledge though. So I don't want to make out that this is a get rich quick thing. There's a lot of knowledge into that they have, but really the only risk they have is the knowledge risk. That's it. They just need to be able to identify the good websites to buy and then know how to renovate them.
Yeah. Interesting. And so what's your approach to, how do you go about identifying, acquiring, and improving websites? How do you know which ones are good or bad?
Yeah, well, that's part of the art of it all. So that's like, looking at a commercial property or a residential property and seeing it sitting there, neglected, and knowing, well, here's what I can do to it. So it's the same with online businesses. There's certain levers that we can pull. And what we look for is renovation opportunities in terms of profit and traffic. So we know, so that particular site already had a lot of traffic, but because it had been sitting around, but they maxed that out. So their renovation was to figure out how to get even more traffic into that topic, and then also to fix up the monetization, because typically these neglected websites, they don't have very good monetization on them. They're not maximized. People get bored of them because they're in a passion niche. They start them out because they're passionate about gardening or knitting or dentistry. What doesn't matter what the topic is, typically someone's passionate about it. They start the website, and then what happens 5 years later, if they're not making any money, they get bored and they sell it cheap. So what we're looking for is, okay, can we add better monetization? Because people are busy. They don't have time to renovate the sites properly, but our students know what to do, so they can put in better affiliate offers. So instead of going to the standard Amazon stuff, you go direct to manufacturers and say, hey, I've got a really good blog here. Can I get a better affiliate commission? So instantly you double the profits of the website. Little tricks like that.
Mm.
There's a lot to it. Like, how much time do we have, Chris? I could sit here all day talking about that one. How do you fix these sites up? It's a lot of fun though. Intellectually, it's very stimulating as well. Like it's very creative. So that's the other fun part about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it just sounds really interesting because you're using like SEO and different traffic properties.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Another question the audience may have is because I used to back in the days, the .com days, there's I knew friends and colleagues, they bought like .com domain names and then they sold those. How is your approach different than buying and selling domain names?
Yeah, that's a really interesting space. We generally don't do that. So we only teach what we've done and how we've made our money. But we've got friends like yourself who are domainers, where they trade or they trade highly valuable domain names. It's quite different in that basically that's more like collecting fine red wines. Like literally, it is very similar. So you buy what you think is going to be a valuable domain name down the track, and then you just sit on it and you have a portfolio of them. And then basically someone comes along later on and will offer you a lot more money for that domain name. Now, we've done it a little bit, and we buy some premium domain names, but really it's very difficult to value them unless you really know what you're doing. It's quite a it's like literally, think of the knowledge you need to collect fine red wines. It's very much an art, and it's not guaranteed. Whereas what we do is we're buying the actual underlying business that sits behind the website, all the files and the SEO and the traffic value, and it's not just a raw domain name. If you're listening to this, what Chris is talking about is a really smart idea if you know what you're doing. But really, the domain name is kind of like the address of the website. So if you liken it to real estate, and then the website that's on there, like when you click on it and do things on the website, that's all the files and things. That's like the building. And that's the bit that we renovate. So we are literally like the online virtual house flippers. Like we buy, renovate, and then sell. So we don't just want the address. We want the house that comes with it, and we fix that bit up and optimize that. And basically, we're trying to rent it out for more money. That's probably the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah. How big is the market for people looking to buy and sell these types of websites? Is it like millions, hundreds of thousands? How much money do you spend?
Millions. Like when we started, it's funny, we know all the top. So when we first started, there were no website brokers. So we bought our first website off eBay, would you believe, back in 2008, which is, most of our websites are in America, which we also love. So no matter where you're listening to this podcast from, you can do this from anywhere in the world. There's no borders. It's 24/7. But it's now developed since 2008 through to now, where this is a huge industry now, because the big buyers like private equity and institutional money are now moving into this space in a big way for exactly the same reasons that we do it. It's highly leveraged. It's relatively low risk. And these websites, niche traffic now is worth a fortune. So so one of the brokers we know, FE International, when he first started, he speaks all the brokers speak at our events. Thomas said he was selling little $5,000 to $10,000 websites, right? So that as a broker. Yeah. These days, guess what he sells? Minimum is 7 figures, is millions of dollars. Oh. And most of the websites, so he now has a full mergers and acquisitions company called FE International. They're based out of New York. They have over 50 brokers, and they're doing 7, 8, and 9 figure deals.
Wow.
Every single broker is like that now. So all the top brokers, so Flipper, who we know very well, that's where we recommend you start, by the way, if you're listening to this, because you can still buy little tiny websites on Flipper, like sites under $5,000. That's the best way to learn how to do this. But Flipper is the biggest marketplace in the world. At any one time, they will have thousands of websites listed for sale. And Chris, to give you an idea, for your listeners, on Flipper right now, now, this is not a recommendation to go and buy any of these sites, but if you want to replace your income, say, and earn 10 grand a month off websites, there are over 300 listings right this minute on Flipper that earn over $10,000 a month. Now, obviously, you need to know what you're doing if you buy those, because they'll be selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're not risk-free or anything like that. But they're really good assets to own. But that's just one broker. And so there's Quiet Light, there's Empire Flippers, there's over. I think last time we did, every year we do an update of how many brokers there are. The last update we did, there were 24 world-class website brokers, each with hundreds to thousands of listings every single day of the week. So it is a huge market now.
Yeah.
Forget the burdens of tenants and toilets. Equity Multiple simplifies your investment journey, letting you invest passively embedded, professionally managed commercial real estate. Only 5% of reviewed investments reach Equity Multiple's platform, with our asset management working on each from funding through exit to maximize your returns. Whether you're on the couch, in your exec chair, or the backseat of a rideshare, Equity Multiple brings cash flowing real estate investments straight to your fingertips. All investments involve risk. Visit equitymultiple.com to learn more.
Adjacent question to that is really sounds interesting. Adjacent question is, once you acquire these websites and you fix them up and you get them cash flowing, how do you decide whether to keep it and just live off the income or sell it? Like, I mean, what kind of criteria do your clients use?
Well, really good question. The main answer to that is, what's your life goals? So if that client was my client and I was coaching them like you do, I saw on your website, which I really, really like, is, your simple little quiz. What's your ideal life? What's your goals? So Liz and I we do the same thing with our clients. We work backwards from that. I really like that idea. So as a coach, and if you're listening to this, it's really, you got to understand what Chris has done there is super important. We do the same thing. Is every decision you make in business stems from what's your actual vision? What is your vision for your life? And it sounds funny. This is where mindset is so important, and understand. And that's where we like to tap in. So like you, Chris, you're working with physicians. We work with, high income earners. And I'll say to them, all right, are you burnt out with work? Where are you at? Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Do you want to quit your job, or do you want to keep working and earning, $600,000 a year as a CEO of that company, or the project manager, or whatever it is? And they say, no, I want to quit in 5 years' time. We go, all right, so let's work backwards from there. You need to own, you got real estate investments, you got share investments, you might have crypto, you got website investments. These are high cash flow machines. Let's figure out how much money you need each month. And then we build a portfolio based around that, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 5 websites, or half a dozen websites. And then basically what we recommend is you design that to suit the income goals that you have. You work to a long-term plans. There's not short-term. There's not get rich quick thing. And then what we recommend is you sell off the small underperforming or the smaller ones, and you focus on the winners. And that's generally the thing, but it all stems from understanding that life goal first. What's your actual vision? If you want to be a website flipper, then you can do that, just like flipping houses. But that's typically for people that don't have as much money and need to roll up their bank. What we recommend is keep for the cash flow, because cash flow is king. Like, we want to be like Warren Buffett. You stick at it for the long term. You treat it as, they're the ones that work the best, particularly if they're semi-passive. Yeah. We've got sites that we barely touch. We've had them for a decade, and they just tick along, making their money. It's better than money in the bank. If I sold it, what am I going to do with the money? But there's also opportunity cost as well. Maybe you want to roll it into bigger deals. So again, it depends on where are you at in life? Do you really want to go for this and make something big of it? Or are you happy just to keep for the cash flow?
Yeah. And what are like for people listening, what is a realistic timeline for somebody listening to this podcast, going and implementing and replacing their regular income through this website investment strategy?
Yep. That's a really hard question to answer because what we've discovered over the years of training lots of people through this, we train a lot of people in the US now, and it depends on how much time they have to learn this stuff. So that you can literally, like I said, you can go on the flipper right now and buy a website tomorrow that earns 10 grand a month. But we do not recommend you do that. That would be pretty stupid, to be blunt about it, because you've got to learn how to run these websites. You've got to understand what you're doing. So it's more, how long does it take you to learn this and how much time do you have? If you're doing this full time, you can do it in around 12 months. That's how our courses are designed. Typically, we find it takes a good 12 months to learn this because most people these days are way busier than what they were, say, 5 years ago. The world seems to have just sped up. You've got to be realistic about that. And we typically find it takes 12 months plus to really dial this in. So, Chris, the first step is to learn this is just buy a small site under $5,000 and play with it and get some results. And what you've got to understand too is it's not always instant renovation. The fix-ups aren't always instant because SEO these days is a little bit trickier. It takes longer to kick in. You're looking at 12 months alone for organic traffic results to start kicking in, but you can do paid traffic as well. So there's a lot to learn. So really, I think you need to treat it as like going back to school and learning a skill, something you work on as a side hustle. You're looking at 12 months plus.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Unless you're already experienced. If you're already experienced, someone like yourself, you can go out there and buy sites that are earning the big money a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A follow-up question I have for you is, in real estate, for example, you may have a property that's paid off in full, or it could be mortgaged, and sometimes you can refinance it, or you can use the property as collateral, take a loan against it, so how easy is it to obtain, a debt against these websites as collateral, like either for refinance or cash out, get your money back, infinite returns, that type of strategy?
It's a lot trickier, to be honest about it. They ask. Banks generally won't loan against them, but interestingly, for you guys in America, you can get an SBA loan. So is that what you call it there? Yeah. SBA, yeah. So all the brokers now are onto that, so they can help you. Any broker can help you with that. But apparently in America you can get SBA loans, but generally what we see is you do need cash to do these deals, but they're very flexible deals, particularly with how the economy goes. You can do earnouts, you can do, vendor finance with these. The brokers help you set that up. So some really good websites, they will sell for all cash. The best ones get snapped up straight away.
Wow.
Like people see the opportunity, but it's not like traditional real estate where the banks will loan against the businesses generally, not in my experience. It's a little bit different. And by the way, if you're listening to this, that's the case with traditional bricks and mortar businesses anyway. Here in Australia, I know it's very difficult to get, working with the banks to get been there, done it many a time with banks borrowing money against businesses. It's really tricky. The interest rates are higher. For us, we do this all cash. We just make cash deals and then we vendor finance it normally because we don't get access to SBA loans. But for you guys in America, you can definitely look into the SBA loan thing to see if that could help you buy a bigger website. Again, learn how to do it properly first. Don't just rush out there and buy $1 million website. Not a smart move because there is digital skills that you need to learn in this. Like, how does the website work? How does it go together? That's what we're renovating. When we buy a website, we do a makeover. You've got to have some digital skills. Yeah.
That's interesting because I had a friend in college. He runs a publicly traded company now, but he had a blog, and I listened to one of his podcasts recently, and he was saying that blog sold for $1 million, and I was just like, why would somebody pay $1 million for, but this talking to you makes sense now. I'm like,
That's a really good point, because it'll be, if it's a blog, it's probably think about this from a person that can afford $1 million, right?
Yeah.
That'll be a blog that just ticks along, in inverted commas, semi-passively, just got ads on it. So it's recurring revenues. And this is why the big buyers absolutely love them. So I'll share you a very similar example, maybe go in a bit more detail, just so your listeners realize. We have a client, Dave and Connor. They're on our podcast. They're in America, and they've made all their money in commercial real estate in America. So, buying commercial properties, and they get 8% returns, yields or whatever. They did our course, and they bought a site about pets, and they paid $1 million for that. And they absolutely love it because it makes $300,000 a year net.
Wow.
That's
really?
cash flow. So 300 grand. Yeah, but it gets better, Chris. So they're used to, getting 8% yield. So they buy this thing. It's on a 3 times multiple. It's making 300 grand a year. Within 6 months, they've doubled that 300 grand to 600,000.
Wow.
And you know how they did it? Because all they did was change to advertising. They went to an advertising broker who got them a much better rate. And they did other work as well. They worked on the SEO. They did a makeover of the website, but jumped to $600,000 net.
Wow.
That's why people buy blogs for $1,000. It's just about pets. Lots of people come there. They look at the ads that people click on, Google Ads. That's it. So now you can go to ad managers like Mediavine or Raptive, and what they do is they automate all the ads for you, and they optimize them, and then they take a little cut, and they guarantee to make you more money off the ads. So, but you need a big website for that. But that's why people are buying blogs.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Recurring revenues. Yeah. So Dave and Connor absolutely love it. Like he said, but commercial real estate's still awesome though, because like you said earlier, you can borrow against it. It's a big asset. It's very valuable. But, these good blogs are worth a fortune. And seriously, if you saw that site, you would have no idea that it makes $600,000 a year net to the owner. It's a very basic looking website.
Yeah. Fascinating. Wow. I know a lot of the audience is intrigued and they wanted to find out more about you and read you've got a podcast as well. How can they find and contact you? How can they do that?
So they can look up our podcast, digitalinvestors.com. Or they can come to our main training site, which is .com.au, because we're in Australia, but we train lots of Americans. If they come to ebusinessinstitute.com.au, I know it's a big URL, but even on Digital Investors, you'll see links to ebusinessinstitute.com.au, and you just do our free masterclass where we go into more detail about the sorts of sites we buy, how we do due diligence, and then how we sell them. And then that talks about our course as well, if anyone was interested in it. But even if you just did the free masterclass, there's a lot of info there to get you going. And make sure you start small. Buy a site under $1,000 first, just to learn on, because you can't hurt yourself with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And let's thank Matt for coming on and offering his expertise. And all these links will be in the show notes. And again, fascinating conversation.
Thanks very much for having me on, Chris.
As we wrap up, Freed AI is here to free you from medical documentation. HIPAA compliant, it takes 30 seconds to learn, and is incredibly affordable. Join the movement to eliminate clinician burnout. Visit Freed.ai and improve your lifestyle. You can try Freed for free right now by going to Freed.ai. My listeners can use the coupon code PGD for $50 off the first month.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.